What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the third part of this tutorial series or video series on basic jQuery for backend developers and rookie frontend developers. This time around we're going to be actually validating our form and hopefully not have the same JavaScript issues we had in our last video. We'll be spending more time inside of our code than on the actual page. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new function for our home index JavaScript file. It's going to be called valid. It's going to be a simple function where we pass in the form. Since we've already selected out our jQuery form, we're just going to pass it around so that we don't have to do too much reselecting of elements. So inside of our validation process, we are going to have a collection of invalid elements. We're just going to create an empty jQuery object for that, and then our invalid message. This is going to be an array of all the invalid messages. What we're going to do is, after our validation, we're going to take all of our messages and put them inside of a unordered list on top of the page. So it will say, oh, first name's required, last name is too long, whatever. And then with the invalid elements, we're going to add an invalid class and highlight those in red. So first thing I always recommend doing with in terms of front end validation is clear out all of your clear out all previous validation, so you start fresh and you're not bringing over any previously invalid items. So that we're going to be setting our why is it? Oh, yay! Vim is hating me now. So anyway, we're going to be adding a class of invalid to all of our items if they're invalid. Okay, so the first element on our form is our first name, and so we're just going to create a var called fname equals form.find. We're going to just select it by the ID. Now we're going to utilize one var for each one of these properties. So we're going to get the value. I'm going to just call it first name value equals, I'm going to use a jQuery function called trim. .val. And then create an object called invalid fname equals false. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through each one of these properties or each one of these form elements, and with a similar pattern. I'm going to end up just copying and pasting over a lot of them so you can see, we don't have the redundancy inside the video. So what we want to require our first name, but we also don't want to have more than 255 characters inside of the form, the first name. And so first we'll check to see if it's empty. If fname value equals so what we did here is if somebody enters a bunch of spaces, $.trim is going to actually remove all of those spaces, and it's going to trim all the white space around it. It's very much like a string.trim inside of C#. Now, a lot of times you'll see inside of if statements in JavaScript a triple equals or a double equals sign, and this refers to falsy values. Won't go too deep into it, but sometimes when you do a comparison, they're going to end up, it doesn't type check it. So if you're doing a Boolean comparison, you can get inconsistent results there. So typically everybody recommends using triple equals, but just for the sake of this tutorial, I'm just going to keep it double equals. So anyway, if we have an empty first name, our invalid first name is obviously going to be true. And we're going to push a string to the invalid message array. So invalid message. Push. First is required. I'm lost without them. So we've pushed our invalid message to our invalid message function. Now we also want to check if the value is too long. So to get the text length, you just take the string value and do dot length. And if it's greater than 255, we're going to essentially do the same thing, but have a message of first name must be less than 255 characters. Now if we're only testing one of these, we'd add this next function to one of these, but just so that we don't have a bunch of extra code, we're going to just do if invalid first name is true. We're going to push, or I believe it's actually, invalid elms equals invalid dot add to your f name. So what we're doing here is we're reassigning invalid elms is equal to valid elms adding first name. So essentially this is going to create a list of jQuery objects for that we'll be plugging a new class into. I'm going to go ahead and go all the way down to the bottom of our okay, so to test all this stuff out, we're going to do console.log. We're going to look at our invalid message. And then console.log invalid elms. We're going to restart a new instance of this. I hope this works. Home index.valid. This would help if I did that. Okay, go back over here and hopefully we get better results. Okay, and of course not, because our JavaScript is not refreshing. Okay, there we go. So each time I click our submit button, you see that. Seriously? So what's going on is it is referencing my it's referencing my referencing my reference JavaScript piece that I'm using to make sure I code everything right. I guess that's what's been going on with it. So 1 second while I open that up into another one. So silly. So that's why we're getting all sorts of fun issues. Okay. There we go. No. Alrighty. I'm going to kill IIS Express. Exit. Maybe since the project names were the same, it felt like it needed to be fancy. that's probably the issue that we were having with man, wouldn't be here. Let's do this. I'm gonna pause the video real fast and disable this, disable some stuff. So be back in a moment. Alrighty, we're back. I've ended up just creating a standard local host IIS website for it, and guess what? That little checkbox we were messing with ended up showing up, and yeah. Yay! Everything seems to be working better now. So, hopefully the rest of this is going to go better. So we've added form find, form is undefined. Okay. Let's refresh the page. Form is not defined. Oh. Oh, let's just do that. Yeah. Okay. So I'd forgotten to pass in form into our validation function, and so now that you can see, it did pass in our object, but for some reason it didn't. Our array push didn't work. Oh, because I used square braces instead of curly braces. Yay! Okay. I was hoping this video was going to be a lot better than the last one. Apparently not. So, anyway, let's go back to this. Our Firebug console open. So now we have our element, or our text value for that is first name is required. Do it again. We get nothing. Let me get some more Ipsum. And dump 500,000 characters into it. Let's see here, words. Warm Ipsum, or just lipsum.com. Gonna generate. I just said I wanted a word, not a paragraph. Submit. Woohoo! Alright, so everything right there seems to be working. So for our last name, I'm just gonna copy and paste that in, so it's because it's essentially the same thing. Our email address, we are going to start off with the exact same thing. We don't want it more than 255 characters, but we're going to add something else. You can use what's called a regex to verify that the input plugged in was actually an email address. So to test this, we only want to test this if all of our previous tests passed. And so if it's still false and not pattern.test null value, and so that's essentially what this is running the email value through the regex tester to ensure that it's valid. So we're going to do invalid email equals true if it does not pass, and then invalid message dot push, open parentheses this time, please enter a valid email address. Now we're going to drop down here and do if valid email. We're going to add it to our array of elms. Add address. The last element on our form we're going to want to validate is the well, actually I take it back, there's two. We want to check to see the select list has a value. Then we want to check and make sure that the checkbox is checked. So I'm going to let's see here. So var SL type equals form find selected by ID of SL type. SL type value equals SL type val. Okay, if our value is empty, it means that we have the first element selected and we haven't selected anything. So we're going to do invalid elms dot equals invalid elms dot add SL type. So we're going to add it to the jQuery object array, and then invalid message equals, or sorry, dot push. Please select a type. The last one we're going to do is the checkbox. So var check terms equals form dot find set terms. If not, we're going to check to see if it's checked. So if not check terms, if it's not checked, it's invalid. So invalid elms equals invalid elms dot add check terms valid message push. Validation on for the front end of a form can be really redundant after a while. There are frameworks to kind of help out with it. This is essentially just kind of the basics of it. It's a little tedious after a while, but you know, you get used to it. Okay, so we have all those elements wired up now, and so uncheck my checkbox and submit it. We see that first name's invalid, last name's invalid, email address is required. We need to select a type, and please select the terms. So I'm going to quickly just select those two, and we see that we have 2 fewer messages. So I'm going to just add something real fast for there, and email address is required. So let's test our email address real fast. We're just going to put in some plain text. It's going to say please enter a valid email address, and so I'm going to do Daniel at outlook.com. Get rid of that exclamation mark because I have fat fingers. Submit, and our form is valid. Yay! Alrighty, so that sums up a quick way how to validate a form. There are plenty of other ways to do it like this. This is the simplest, probably most drawn out way to do it, but I think that we covered all the essentials that you would most likely have for a form like this. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.